Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2021-22 season. My name is Dan and welcome to a Game Week 27 episode of Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid, the series where we kind of look at some transfer moves we might want to make, we might not want to make, what kind of players we're going to sell, which kind of players are we going to buy, and that kind of stuff. So it's all good stuff. For those of you who are not free hitting, I know there's a lot of free hitters out there. This video is going to be for you guys who are not free hitting. Welcome to the club. I'm going to be in the same club as you guys. But without further ado, a quick run through the rules. Buys are players you probably don't have but should consider bringing in. Sells are players you probably have but should consider removing. Keeps are players you probably have. I think you should keep these players even if you might be thinking about removing them. And avoids are players pretty hyped up right now. A lot of people are buying these players, but I actually think you should avoid these players. So those are the rules. Hopefully that all makes sense. Without further ado, let's have a look at some buys. So our first buy is Wout Weghorst. I know a few of you guys weren't convinced with the kind of Weghorst shout when I put him in as a buy last week. A few concerns maybe about his finishing. Well, I mean, how about now? What a performance against Brighton with another Game Week 26 fixture still to play against Spurs. I'm sure we can all see now that Weghorst is the real deal. Great finishing, taking his chances, a good hold-up player willing to lay the ball off for teammates as well. And he's a focal point of a Burnley team desperate to escape the relegation zone using their games in hand. It took him a couple of games to secure his first ever Premier League goal, but he is here now and he is here to stay. Now the great thing here is the double Game Week 26 actually wasn't even Weghorst's best double. So I don't feel like you completely missed out just yet if you haven't got Weghorst yet. Because Game Week 27 was actually the Burnley double game week I had a little bit of a closer eye on, because on paper, Crystal Palace and Leicester looks like two much better fixtures. Palace have unfortunately devolved into a bit of a nothing team recently, and Leicester, they seem to be like trying to break a record for worst Premier League defence at the moment. Honestly, if you still think Newcastle and Norwich are the perfect teams to target with your attackers, I advise you to watch a Leicester game. You know, this has just been very evident that Leicester are just not a good defence at the moment. And something they've struggled with in particular is those aerial balls. You know, set pieces, headed chances, crosses. If only we had a 6'7" aerial machine at our disposal. Oh wait, we do, and his name is Weghorst. I should say, though, I kind of do know Leicester have struggled really badly with injuries this season. I do think their attack is still dangerous. I don't want to bash on the club. I know they'll come back better next year, but in FPL, we have to deal with what's in front of us right now, and this game week presents a serious opportunity once again for Weghorst owners. And I'll go as far as to say that he's probably the best captaincy candidate for the game week as well. Burnley are the only team that are going to play a double game week, and they are kind of a team which, in fairness, is difficult to pick from. But if you had to pick one standout player from them in terms of ability, look no further than Wout Weghorst. My second buy is Heung-min Son, and I think he'll be a really popular pick this game week as well. He looks back on it after his injury layoff, and he was looking good before that as well. In fact, he's been probably one of the only Spurs players that hasn't been disappointing or inconsistent kind of over the course of the season, right? So if we're kind of looking for a safe bet from Spurs, and believe me, that's a kind of a really, really difficult question, looking for a safe bet from a Spurs. The answer kind of is Son, right? He's good value. He kind of offers those premium scores for a slightly cheaper price than the usual premiums. He's captainable in those slightly easier games. He has good fixtures right until the end of the season with lots to play for. He's competing for top 4, so, you know, Spurs can't really afford to rest or rotate him. We have one double game week for Spurs already booked in, Game Week 29 versus United and Brighton. Not a great double on paper, but I don't think United or even Brighton's defences should be overestimated. Could be a good one for a big game player kind of like Son. Game Week 30, that's going to be a blank for Spurs, so be aware of that. But it means that Spurs will have another 2 double game weeks between now and the end of the season, excluding the Game Week 29 one. So we're going to have a minimum of 3 double game weeks in the space of the next, well, the only 12 remaining game weeks. 1 in 4 of Spurs' remaining game weeks will be double game weeks for Spurs. So that is not too bad at all. His underlying stats, they look good. He has a kind of a reputation of overperforming on these stats as well. I just think he's a very good player to go for. And with the lack of promising premium options outside of Salah at the moment, this could be the one to default to. I really think it could be. On to some sells. Our first one is Michail Antonio. A lot of you guys are going to be looking to make room for players like WEGHORST, Broja, possibly even Sam Maximan with his kind of upcoming double game weeks. Double he's actually got, hasn't he, at Newcastle. It's kind of crazy to think that we're actually at a point where we really like the look of some forwards. But there we go. You know, things change very fast in FPL. If you said 2 weeks ago that there were particular forwards that we absolutely love the look of, then I would have called you crazy. But whatever. A lot of you guys do still have Antonio for many reasons. Maybe other transfers have been a priority. Maybe no other forwards have caught your eye up until now. But I think that idea has a little bit changed. In the FPL, you know, in FPL, the problems that we have with Antonio in terms of FPL, it is not confined to the pitch. The pitch performances are a big part, don't get me wrong, but it's not just that. But, you know, if we're talking about Antonio on the pitch, he's kind of a forward whose role is actually to drop a little bit deeper, a little bit wider, creating space for those midfielders to advance a little bit. That's no good for FPL, really. That's kind of why we've seen Antonio completely drop off on the points ever since the first couple of games in the whole season. His role for West Ham is a role entirely unsuitable for those good FPL assets. And as more people kind of clock onto this, the more people have sold him gradually throughout the season. But I think we're mostly all on the same page by this point, where we kind of acknowledge Antonio is just not a very good FPL asset at this present time, really, you know, in this season, in this system. But as I say, those are all the problems on the pitch, but the problems are not confined to the pitch. It's also a little bit about the fixtures as well. So West Ham, they've got a pretty nasty fixture run now between now and the end of the season. Starting with some tricky defences in the next 4, even some of the easier fixtures such as Brentford away, Burnley at home, which West Ham have before the end of the season. Those are kind of the easiest ones, and I do think even those may cause some problems for attackers, much less attackers who aren't usually directly involved anyway. West Ham, we also expect them to blank in Game Week 30, so that's not going to give us any cover. Antonio can't cover us in Game Week 30, and although that would mean a likely double in the big Game Week 36 double game week, West Ham are not currently due for any other double game week. So Game Week 36 is quite far away still. There's not going to be any other doubles before that. Just not looking too good. They have no fixtures that kind of remain unscheduled at the moment that can fit in before the big double, right? So it's bad fixtures, no doubles, bad FPL form. So whether you're a form kind of guy, whether you're a fixtures kind of guy, it doesn't really matter with Antonio. He's kind of a player who is just very sacrificeable at the moment. Is that a real right word? Sacrificeable? I don't know. But, you know, when we're looking for new forwards, Antonio is the guy that we kind of be looking to sacrifice most likely. My next sell is Conor Gallagher, and I have to be honest, I was kind of struggling for a second sell. Obviously, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Leicester players, they make good candidates, or some of them make good candidates since they all blank this game week. Ollie Watkins was also a consideration, but we did already have a forward in the sell, so I guess it's time for the Palace boys to come under a bit of scrutiny, and that does include players like Edouard and Elise, mostly just because of rotation risk. But we'll go with Gallagher as the avoid for the purpose of this video, since he's the most popular of the Palace assets. So I'd like to try and, you know, think of players that a lot of people have rather than kind of players who are kind of a little bit more differential. But yeah, Gallagher is going to be the avoid for the sake of this video. He carries a lot of the same problems as Antonio with regards to fixtures. So there's no games to be rescheduled right now. So there's going to be no games in hand, no scheduled double game weeks between now and the end of the season other than the 36. And the only reason that the Crystal Palace might double it in Game Week 36 is because they're going to blank in Game Week 30. So, you know, it's kind of like you're going to struggle for Game Week 30, and then by Game Week 36, pretty much everyone has a double there anyway, or is likely to have a double there anyway, so, you know, don't worry about that too much. 36 is also quite far off, so again, if we're looking in the immediate term, Game Week 30 blank, no double game weeks where so many other kind of players are doubling up, aren't they, having those double game weeks. There's just so many good midfielders now as well, especially as most of us are going for a couple of more expensive midfielders. The position is a sacred one, but we kind of have to fill up with the best players. And lately, partially due to playing deeper, Gallagher is just not that. In terms of shooting, he's not bad. He is a threat from set pieces, but his creativity and his assist potential, that's dropped off a cliff, with Palace mostly now relying on their wingers to create. Zaha, Elise, Ayew, Edouard, most of them very rotation risk anyway. They're all kind of occupying the spaces where Gallagher likes to create. And all of these shots, these shot stats, these you know, expected goal stats that you see on screen right now, they were of course recorded in a period of pretty favourable games for Palace. overall, Palace seem a little bit meh. The rotation is very heavy. The positions and tactics seem to change game to game. Formations as well to a lesser degree, I suppose. It's hard to predict anything really with Palace at the moment. And personally, I don't like unpredictability in FPL. Fixtures in the immediate term, they don't look great either. Even Burnley and Newcastle, who we do usually consider easy teams, they both look improved at the moment. And I'm just kind of worried a bit about Palace assets at the moment. So, therefore, Gallagher, Olise, Edouard, they all may have to go in the bin, unfortunately. On to some keeps. We'll start you off with Trent Alexander-Arnold, one player who I'm sure you've had since the beginning of the season, maybe. I mean, I know I have. I think he's been the one player in my squad that survived 2 wildcards. He's been in my squad since game week 1, and like me, you guys may have bought him for 7.5 million. That means if you try and sell him now, you're not gonna get the full price for him. You're not gonna be able to sell him for 8.5, even though he's worth 8.5 now. So if you do sell him now, you're gonna sell him for a heavily discounted price. You're gonna sell him for kind of 8 million, and if you want him back, which I can guarantee that you will, it's going to cost you 8.5 million again to buy him back. So especially if you're kind of taking him out just for 1 game week, you will sacrifice a huge amount of team value and perhaps more importantly to transfers for the sake of removing Trent just for 1 game. I know a lot of people in the wider FPL community, they're selling him, Jota, Robertson, even Salah. This is kind of dangerous. Just try not to go too crazy selling these guys, as you will want them back, especially if you have a lot of value tied up in them, which you will lose out on when you bring them back. So yeah, just try and keep them if you can. Like, for those of you worried about rotation, I would say don't be with regards to these Liverpool players. Salah plays every match he's available for, doesn't he? Jota, he should be back and available and ready for game week 28, so I don't think you even need to sell Jota, because that's when Liverpool next play, so he's going to be back by then. It's fine. Well, hopefully, anyway. Robertson and Trent, they were rested against Norwich, obviously, but with City losing at the weekend, that's going to give Liverpool a much-needed confidence boost that they can win the league. They have to go for it now, and as such, they have to play their best players. We also have this lovely double game week versus Brighton and Arsenal coming up. It's not quite as good as the game week 26 double, but it's still pretty good. Brighton are kind of struggling lately. Arsenal can't win the big games at all, we know that. Remember what happened last time Liverpool played against Arsenal? 4-0 to Liverpool. So you're definitely going to want these guys back. You're definitely going to want the Liverpool triple up again by the time it comes to game week 29. They're the best attack in the league. They're one of the best defences. And these Liverpool players are just FPL point scoring machines. So I just wanted to put it out there. Unless you have a specific plan in mind that you're confident in, very, very confident in, try and hold your Liverpool players through the blank. My next keep, I'm going to go for Felipe Coutinho. Coutinho is another highly sold player this game week that I think you should probably try and keep. Aston Villa have been disappointing recently, but you know, I think we have seen some flashes of brilliance from Coutinho, even in those games that he has blanked. He will play that killer pass, you know, through to an attacker. He will take on shots from range, and I think that alone is worth keeping around your squad, just because it just gives you the opportunity for points when they might not necessarily always come. You know, with Coutinho, he can magic up something special at any given moment. You don't need, you know, consistent returns for him to suddenly get a 10-pointer, 15-pointer out of the blue, and that can happen at any point. But there's one point I think it could very well likely happen. And after this game week 27 Brighton game, he has a really nice double. This Villa double is actually, you know, really decent, to the point you might actually want to hold on to all of your Villa assets as long as their name's not Ollie Watkins. But, you know, if you've got a Coutinho, if you've got a Ramsey, if you've got a Digne, these double game week fixtures look very nice. Southampton at home and Leeds away. There could be some serious goals in here for sure. And with Watkins kind of not firing, Ings not firing, Coutinho, Ramsey maybe, these kind of seem like the most likely players to grab a goal in a double game week like this. So I do think try your best to try and keep them at least for the double game week. Even if Coutinho does disappoint in 27, try and keep some Aston Villa players for 28. Obviously, like, Watkins is perhaps the exception because he is not nailed on right now. He has been dropped essentially, so we kind of don't know for sure if Watkins is going to retain his place. He has been in bad form and stuff like that. But yeah, some of your other Aston Villa guys, gotta keep him. And finally, some avoids. So we're going to start you off with Jarrod Bowen. I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but it's reached a point where I actually no longer feel like Bowen is a good buy. I would kind of understand if you wanted to sell him, to a degree, but overall I do think he has to go down as a don't buy, don't sell type play. You know, the player who's kind of in the middle. If you have him, keep him. If you don't have him, I don't think you need to buy him anymore. I think that's where we're at. The reasons for that are a lot of the same as I spoke about with Antonio. Obviously, they play for the same team. So, you know, whereas Antonio is also struggling on the pitch, but I did kind of explain about some of the other problems with regards to fixtures. So, you know, you're probably noticing a bit of a theme here, a big theme about fixtures. You know, who is due to blank soon? Who do we know has scheduled doubles? Not Bowen. Who do we know has unscheduled doubles? Not Bowen. You know, Jared Bowen just doesn't look good in any of these categories. And we know the West Ham fixtures, they're about to take a turn for the worse as well. West Ham have some pretty difficult fixtures between now and the end of the season. So bringing in Bowen right now compared to, you know, some players who have some nice double game weeks, some players who are a little bit more, you know, thinking forward a little bit more. I just don't know. I just don't feel like it's aggressive enough. I don't like, I want you to try and attack and look at future points rather than looking at past points. Over the next few game weeks, I think there will be lots of midfielders around Bowen's price that will outscore him, particularly when you consider a lot of these players over the next, like, you know, 2 or 3 game weeks have doubles. So they're playing literally more games than Bowen will. So for that reason, it doesn't make much sense to go for Bowen right now when there are other players that we really strongly feel could do better over, you know, the time period that you would be owning Bowen for. So there we go. Lots of lovely doubles come up. We've seen what players can do on a double game week. Let's not go for Bowen. Let's think about future points rather than past points. But if you do have Bowen already, I would still probably keep him. And our final avoid is Bruno Fernandes. And again, in a similar way, I feel like Bruno Fernandes is not a very progressive kind of player to go for. He's kind of a player who's very much past points and not future points. We have seen some really good stuff from Bruno Fernandes recently. Obviously, I mean, you know, if you've had him for so long, you know, for the last few game weeks, past month or so, then amazing. You know, that is really good. But for those of you who are considering bringing in Bruno, I think you have to kind of leave him in the past a little bit and kind of look at the next big thing. You know, we've spoken about Son already, a player who is at a very similar price. You know, we've spoken about Salah a lot in recent weeks as well, because we know Salah is back now. He's going to be scoring loads of goals. You know, making sure he secures that golden boot, trying to get Liverpool into the #1 spot in the Premier League. Can it be done? I'm not sure, but it's going to need, you know, a lot of Salah effort to do that. So we know that Son, Salah, these are the most desirable premiums at the moment. You know, you maybe include Kane in that as well, because we know that Spurs do have double game weeks coming up. You know, a lot of you guys are going to be thinking about maybe going for some Man City midfielders, because it seems a little bit more rigid which Man City players are going to be playing at the moment. You know, probably Sterling is going to be playing most games, probably Mahrez maybe as well. So those are kind of much more desirable players. I mean, De Bruyne as well. I haven't even mentioned him. So those players are going to be, you know, getting some good points. Bruno, his fixtures are going to go downhill. Manchester United have not really been too impressive, to be honest. And when the fixtures look bad as well, I think we're going to go back to seeing our, you know, a classic Man United where they're kind of scraping 1-0s and you know, maybe getting, you know, 1-1s and stuff like that. Whereas we've got all of these other players, you know, in a red hot form of, you know, Salah at Liverpool, you know, the ice cool form of, you know, some of those City attackers, those kind of players you can go for there. And obviously the double game weeks as well of those Spurs attackers, the Sons, the Kanes. These are really expensive players and you can't have them all. You've got to prioritise. And I don't think Bruno going forward will, you know, be, you know, as high scoring as some of these other guys. And I don't think you're going to captain Bruno anytime soon either. So it doesn't make too much sense to go for him. I feel like, obviously, I can understand why people will want to go for Bruno Fernandes, but I feel like you may have missed the boat on this one. The points have already happened. Maybe they'll have an okay fixture in Gameweek 27. You know, Watford is not a bad fixture, I guess. They're kind of, you know, becoming a lot more difficult, to be fair, since Roy Hodgson has kind of turned up. But after that, I'm just not convinced that Manchester United are going to score you as many FPL points as you perhaps hope. And I think your high amount of money, and it is a lot of money, is probably best invested elsewhere. So time to move away from those Manchester United assets and you know, look for pastures greener, I guess. So in summary, guys, we just want to be thinking a lot about double game weeks. Who's got a double game week coming up? Who has got, you know, unscheduled fixtures still that still need to be fitted in at some point between now and the end of the season? who's going to be blanking in game week 30, kind of work around that. We kind of got to a point where it's actually kind of difficult for me to advise you which players to buy and which ones not to buy, because you're all going to have different tactics and different things going on. So I can only give very general opinions of what players I like, what players I would be kind of not going for right now. And that's the whole point of this series at the end of the day. So yeah, hopefully all of that makes sense. Try and get those players with double game weeks in 28 and 29 if you're not planning on any free hit chips over those 2 game weeks. Yeah, basically, good luck. Good luck finding the right players for you, but I know you can do it. That's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy the video, please do leave a like. Please do subscribe if you're new around here. Massively appreciated, of course. We've got lots of content to come. I'm going to do 100 experts videos, but I might make it more of a free hit themed video, because I know you guys are on free hits right now, and I'm not. So I wasn't really planning on a lot of free hit content because I'm not personally on a free hit. Obviously, we need to do some kind of strategy videos as well this week with all of the fixtures being announced. So we will get round to that this week. It's going to be a jam-packed one, I can imagine, this week. So yeah, do stay tuned. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.